this, just for the couple of people that are running late. Mike, are you on your way just going to be online for the first part?
Yes, I am currently in transit.
Cool. How close are you?
About 20 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. We won't wait that long. Yeah. Matt, just so you know, we made a motion. We are doing a 10-minute break before we get started just because so many people were saying that they were running late. Go for it, Matt. I'm like, now we do have everybody. But
I was just trying to say, do a thumbs up, not raise my hand.
oh, no worries. Yeah. All right. It looks like everybody is back. So is everybody okay if we just go ahead and get started? I know I said 10 minutes, but since we have everybody, any objections to that?
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Perfect. And then Susanna, are you going to be here in person? You're just online for now, or are you just going to be fully online?
Yeah, I'm online for now. I'm just waiting for my ride.
Okay, no worries at all. Awesome. So then we can go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and start with a verbal attendance. Let's start with who we have in person, and then we can go ahead and move over to the online folks. So we'll go ahead and start with Siobhan.
Siobhan McKinney, present.
Sky Childress, present.
Amelia Federico, present.
Haley Glass, present.
Patrick Sabetta, present.
Irvi Pal, present.
Germani Stephen, present.
Perfect. And then online.
Matthew Rathbun, present.
Susana Villagomez, present.
Levi Chi, present.
William Coates, present.
Perfect. And would anybody like to volunteer to do the reading of the mission statement? You guys can rock, paper, scissors. No, I'm just kidding. Irvi, you got it.
To support the evolving needs of the MSU Denver students by advocating in their best interest to enhance the university experience and opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Irvi. Looking ahead at our agenda, I think there was one change just to the order, it sounded like. So one of our delegates might have to leave a little bit early. So we were just going to move up the amendment to the chairship to the first item we discuss. I think this one will also require quite a bit of conversation. But I'm going to go ahead and motion to move that amendment to our first item on new business. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any objections to that change in order? Any abstentions? Perfect. So we'll go ahead and just swap those. So we'll go ahead and start with the amendment to the chairship and then move into the Roadrunners After Dark resolution and then continue with the rest of it. And then it does sound like we have some budget funding approvals, but we're just going to go ahead and take care of those during the budget committee update. Patrick's going to go ahead and make a motion to vote on those instead of adding them into new business, but just so everybody is aware, that's when those will be coming up. And with that, it is 2 minutes past time for public comment. Is there anybody in here for public comment? Anybody online, please make yourself known. Awesome. As always, if anybody comes in between the 11:35 and 11:50 block, we will drop whatever we are working on to give due time to them for public comment. But with that, we can go ahead and move over to the amendment to change the chairship, or the amendment to the chairship coming from Amelia.
Good morning, everyone. So this amendment is in collaboration between Sky and I, and it's something I'm really excited about. And I would actually like to yield some of my time to Sky so that she can read this.
Beautiful. Okay. Amendment number to be determined. Amendment to the chairship written by Sky Childress and Amelia Federico, endorsed by Haley Glass. Abstract. The current language in the SGTSAC Constitution designates a responsibility of the chairship to provide a representative at President's Cabinet. SGTSAC is constantly working to remove hierarchy from the council and is amending its constitution to allow any councilor to serve as representative at President's Cabinet when selected by the council. Additionally, given there has been little to no need for the chairship to be classified as a committee, SGTSAC amends its constitution to declassify the chairship as a committee, given its only purpose is to maintain parliamentary order during meetings. The SGTSAC constitution will be amended to reflect the following changes. Article 1, Section 1 will be amended from, these leadership roles are intended to primarily maintain order and represent the council in the MSU Denver President's Cabinet, to, these leadership roles are solely to maintain parliamentary order during SGTSAC meetings. Article 1, Section 4, Subsection 1 will be amended. From the list of standing committees, remove entirely 5 SGTSAC Chairs Committee.
Perfect. Thank you for reading that, Sky. Is there any questions or comments or concerns in regards to this amendment? Please keep in mind that this is the first read and we will not be voting on it today. So I believe I saw Levi's hand pop up online first, and then it looks like we have a delegate question in the room if somebody wants to yield their time.
I yield my time to Irvi.
Thank you, Siobhan. We'll go ahead and start with Levi and then we'll move over to Irvi.
So here, give me a second. So basically, some of the, I guess, questions I have for it is that, so the chairship or the co-chairship, whatever you want to say with it, is that I feel like the reason it's already picked out for someone, because when we vote in on the co-chairs, they have a list of responsibilities that everyone is told to. You know, these are going to lead the meeting. They're going to have these duties. And one of the responsibilities is attending the meetings on a higher level, such as the Colorado Department of Higher Education, President's Cabinet, and stuff like that. And that's what we were voted upon by the council when you guys voted for us to be in the chairship. So it's already like voted by the council. And then another thing is that anyone can attend the meetings with us for these, both the president's cabinet, the Carl Higher Education, because we've invited many people onto the council before at the beginning of the year. I invited Victor and a couple other people to come with me for the CDHE meetings to talk about policies, potentially working with the state to get us on a HEX board and stuff like that. So it's not really something that's exclusatory. I mean, anyone can join us for the meetings. You guys already elect us for this position for this reason, and I feel the reason why we kind of have this for us as co-chairs is because it's kind of a more important meeting because we're representing, TSAC and MSU both on the, higher end of the university, meeting the president, meeting the whole cabinet and everything. And then for myself, working on representing TSAC for both MSU on the CDHE meetings, because I talked to the Attorney General Phil Weisner. I talked to Governor Polis yesterday for our meeting with that. And it's not we're excluding anybody, but it's also calls to like a higher responsibility. And I think it's less hierarchical than that because it's not really as much of a privilege as more of like a bigger responsibility. Any of you can join us on this meeting, but we have to be better in our representation towards that. So that's why it's kind of more towards the co-chairs because of how much of a bigger responsibility it is. And since we have a more dedication to it, I mean, you've seen me and Haley always come to like these meetings if we can. We're usually at a lot of these events. So it's like a responsibility not to be taken lightly. And I feel we should really attribute it to a role we already have that's already supposed to be having more responsibilities. And that's pretty much my piece.
I yield my time to Sky.
Yeah, I don't, did you call me? Sorry. Okay. Think that anyone's arguing that you guys weren't like authorized to go to president's cabinet. I think that you were told at the beginning of the semester when you were elected to be chairs, the council was told that you guys would be doing president's cabinet. I think that if we were pulling that out of the responsibilities of the chairship, when you're deciding who goes to president's cabinet, you're going to be designating that responsibility to that person. You're going to be explaining you're going to be explaining all of that responsibility to them. And if for any reason the council feels that person's not doing an adequate job at that, they would remove that person from that position the same way they would from the chair. And I am also very curious to hear about how we decide who goes to the Colorado Department of Higher Education meeting and without voting on it. I may have not been there for that part, but I don't see any part of our constitution that says that we do that. But I would wait for someone else to respond to me.
Yeah, I think I can respond to that. I'm pretty sure actually when we first decided who was going to the Colorado Department of Higher Education meeting, it was voted upon. However, in constitutional review, we added that as an additional responsibility under the chairship to split it up between the two of them so that they were each having a responsibility, just because we thought it was better to keep the person going to president's cabinet and the person going to the Colorado Department of Higher Education meeting consistent throughout the year. So I'm pretty sure that's how that was decided and then changed. But just to answer that question, yield.
I
just wanted to do my follow-up. Yes, I think that the council should be able to decide if they want that to be the same person or not be the same person or however they wanted that to be. I don't think this necessarily needs to be constitutionally cemented. I think that the idea that the chairship is somehow a more important role than any other position, I think is false. I think that the spirit of this flat structure is that the only reason the chair is there is just so we can have meetings and someone's calling on people, and not that they are delegated necessarily with additional responsibility. I think that anytime the council sends a representative of themselves to any body, to any person to represent the council, that is an additional responsibility, and you need to take that not lightly. I think that if any of those concerns that you mentioned with someone that's not yourself having been put in that role, that should have been weighed when they were voted into that role. Not necessarily that it has to be the chairship. I think that elevating the chairship to have additional responsibilities or additional powers other than any other counselor and controlling the meetings, I think is a little too hierarchical.
And just to clarify, this would not prevent the chairs from running for the president's cabinet and going through the same nomination process. Levi, is yours direct? Because I have Irvi, then Will, then Mike, and then Armando. So I've got a long list. Okay. If you could keep it brief, please, and thank you.
Okay. So real quick is that we're kind of dividing the division of labor between it when there's already someone assigned and already someone who's going to take that labor. So it's just my question is why are we trying to make it harder for ourselves to vote on many positions? We already have issues with like trying to decide who gets to be a leaders committee, the chairs of committees. We're having votes for the student trustees, SACAB, and all that. And there's already responsibilities assigned to our co-chairship. I mean, our responsibilities as co-chairs is just attend those meetings and then lead the meetings or lead our TSAC meetings. So it's already like enough responsibilities for us that's like within our capacity and our bandwidth. So dividing that out to add onto some other counselor when more than likely it's already going to be added to us or someone else is just, I don't really see the like necessity of it.
I think for sake of time, I'm gonna go ahead and move over to Irvi. Would anybody? Oh, Siobhan already yielded time. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Irvi.
I'm just curious, like, how will you maintain this hierarchy? Like, everyone is already representing TSAC and WOL, but there should be one specific representative who can represent TSAC and WOL. But how will you include that the follow-up meetings to the president cabinets is going like the messages are sent to be counselor are in the same loop and everyone are on the same page? And is this amendment going to be in effect in the running counselors who are in 25, 26, or is it going to be in effect right now?
Yield.
So I'm going to impart yield my time, and then I have a very short direct comment, if that's okay.
Perfect. Go for it, Amelia.
I'm
Yeah.
going to yield my time first and then add my comment.
Yeah, I think that sorry, I had the response and then I paused for 2 seconds. Got it. Could you repeat? Just so sorry.
It was essentially just how we're still gonna incorporate president's cabinet, and then how this is gonna when and where this is and when and how this is gonna go into effect.
Yeah, I think that reporting back on what happens in president's cabinet could be done by whoever is doing that position. If it wasn't the chairs just reporting on it, it could be in committee announcements super easily, just like any other any other committee could be reporting back. I would see the person that goes to the president's cabinet as being a part of an advisory committee, almost as in our constitution, that would then just report back to the council to make sure they're doing everything. I think it'd be up to the council if they wanted to change anything from this semester. Given there's one president's cabinet meeting left, I don't see a necessity in that. I feel like Haley was designated to do that, or the chairship was designated to do that, and it shouldn't change necessarily the person for this semester. I think it would really only need to go into effect for next year, when they vote again for chairs and advisory committees and etc.
Amelia.
And the thing that I would just add to that is to frame it in the context of a committee. And that is partly why I really care about this, because even when we look at board and committee announcements and updates, I would really love to see something like President's Cabinet on the list. There is a lot of power concentrated in that room. There is a lot of power that is circulated in those spaces that I think, and not to discount the amazing work that the current chairs have been doing, but I think, if I was in that position, that is a lot to navigate in one space. And I think having it in one committee would allow really, really its own time that I believe it deserves.
And I have one more follow-up to that. I just also believe that, since the chairship can change semester to semester, I think it's also important that the president's cabinet person stays consistent throughout the year, because it was really difficult for me to figure out, when and where I had a voice on that cabinet and to build trust with the members as well in that first semester. And I think if that had changed in the second semester, we would have been starting from scratch. So I think it's really valuable to have somebody that's, selected through our normal committee process at the beginning of the year that will serve on president's cabinet and can stay consistent throughout the year. Patrick, was yours a direct comment or? Okay, perfect. I will add you to the list then. Will, did you still have a question? Because I see you don't have your hand up anymore, but I did see it go up at one point, and I have you next on my list. I'm going to take that as a no, and we'll move over to Mike.
Here, Haley, can you put me at the end of the list?
Yeah, I can move you to the end. Armando?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to say from the advisory standpoint, from the last 3 years with this the iteration of TSAC and building all of this, the way that that's written is because we went with the anyone can attend kind of framework in the first couple years, and we noticed that the meetings were getting missed. So the way that it's written that way is to put responsibility on the chairs to be the one to attend or to appoint someone to attend. So it's not so much a capacity of the chair holds more power. I don't want it to be read that way because it was just more of a, at the end of the day, this person's responsible to either make sure that they attend or that someone does attend. It wasn't supposed to be like more of a power dynamic. So I do want to make sure that that's clear. Yes, it was mainly just to make sure that someone was attending because we had missed a good amount of president's cabinets in the years past.
I'm going to go ahead and yield to Sky real quick for response.
Yeah, thank you for that context because I haven't been here for 3 years. I think that in the same way that the chair is responsible for having someone go to president's cabinet, either themselves or the other chair, I think that making it instead an advisory committee would put that exact same responsibility under our constitution that they go. If not, they appoint someone to go that time for every single meeting. In voting in someone to be our president's cabinet representative, we would be giving them that exact same responsibility to make sure someone from TSAC is at every single one of those meetings. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe to address that, Amelia and Sky, you guys can just maybe try, since this is the first read, to incorporate some sort of language within the advisory committee section, just naming president's cabinet as one of those advisory committees and saying that, it'll follow that same processy. Because I feel like we moved it so that say cab and stuff might be under there event because we got rid of that board thing. But I want to get to Patrick, and then I saw Levi's hand go back up. And then we can get to Mike last.
Thank you, Haley. So my it's not really a question, but more of a comment. Similar to what I was going to say, exactly what Armando was going to say, similar to as my budget. We all have set responsibility set aside for each chair. It's not necessarily power dynamic, but responsibility. So we, just like you were stating as well, Sky and Amelia, we did vote for the chair, and they were able to decide. It was their responsibility to decide who goes there, whether that be someone in the council, whether it be themselves. I feel like if we add something like this, it's just added unnecessary steps to the process because it's already something that's voted in. It's something that's already decided between the council, and it's something that's discussed between the council. So why separate two things that already are being discussed and chosen, oh, better yet, voted on democratically? I yield.
Perfect. I have Levi next, and then I see Will's hand went back up. So I don't know if we want to do Levi, then Will, then Mike. Probably.
Mine will be quick.
Okay, go for it, Levi.
So from it sounds like it's just like how you want it, how it is right now. It's just not going to be underneath the co-chair or the chairship, and it's just going to have an addition to the board and committee updates because we appoint someone. We have someone who's supposed to go to the meetings, and you say not to discount what we do, but anybody can come to the meetings with us. I mean, like I said before, I invited Victor and other people before at the beginning of the semester to come with me to some of the meetings. I'm sure Haley did as well. So I'm not seeing where someone can magically bring more to the table that we haven't already been providing with it.
I'll yield. I'll add you to my list.
Sorry, I couldn't tell because there was two delegates' hands. I think that I've been to a president's cabinet meeting before in the audience. I feel like anyone can go to those meetings. Any member of the public's allowed to. I don't feel that it's not about whether or not you could bring someone with you or whether or not you guys have been doing a good job. That's not anything to do with it. It's just the process of selecting them, either selecting them independently as someone that's going to represent us at president's cabinet versus electing a chair that then has this duty to represent us because it feels very hierarchical and that they hold like a higher position than everyone else. I feel that essentially it would be not any extra steps. At the very first meeting when we elect all of our chairs for our committees, all of our representatives for our advisory committees, it's the exact same process, just one more step.
Quick follow-up, Levi, and then we'll get to Will.
So also just kind of note that if we just keep changing our constitution like every 4 to 3 months, it kind of seems like we're kind of a mess. You know, what's the point of a constitution? We're just amending it constantly. But also it's just that you keep saying it seems hierarchical, and certain hierarchies are bad if they have too much power and focus too much on the whims of one person wielding power. But we all agree in a certain level there has to be at least some level of hierarchy of order in order for us to get things done. Like we have chairships, that's hierarchical. We have people who are appointed to go to meetings. That's hierarchical. One person has a certain responsibility and in essence a certain power towards something. So I kind of want to understand more of why in this specific context it's hierarchical when we don't have any more power than anyone else who can attend the meetings.
Yeah, I think for sake of time, I'm gonna go ahead and move over to Will.
Yeah, hey everyone. I was just reading over this few days ago, 2 days ago, whenever it was posted. I guess my largest concern is removing most of the language revolving around the chairs and the structure of that, and not really posting any type of guidelines or anything for the chairs. I feel like removing the structure of it and not really putting anything else in its stead is leaving kind of a vacuum for the chairs, the chairmanship or the co-chairs, whatever we want to call it. So that's just my biggest concern with removing this language. Not necessarily that I'm against it, just that it's at least historically, as Armando pointed out, a lot of those meetings would slip through the cracks, and that wasn't good, and which is why there was this put in place in the beginning. So I'm just wondering if there can be some kind of I talked to Haley about this, but some kind of guidelines for the next chairs to at least have something to work with and be more efficient next cycle.
I'm going to do a brief response and then I'm going to yield to Sky. But yeah, I did speak with Will about that yesterday, and I'd be more than willing to write some sort of transition documents, guidelines on how the chairship can operate, just kind of to give information on how it works, like facilitating the meetings and that sort of thing. However, I don't necessarily think that needs to include president's cabinet or needs to mean that there is the chairship listed as a standing committee. I'm going to go ahead and yield to Sky.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the language that's in the section of the chairship could be handed down from different generations of TSAC. I really want to see the chairship only be that you are maintaining parliamentary order during our meetings. I don't think the fact that you are a co-chair or chair and vice chair of TSAC means anything different than being any other representative of TSAC, other than the fact that you maintain parliamentary order. And I feel that doesn't necessarily need to have guidelines in the Constitution for it. I feel that passing on transitional documents from chair to chair, like we saw at Tulane, would be a very good thing to do.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and yield to Jamani. I have next on my list.
So I was just wondering, are you trying to make this like a separate advisory committee instead of just including it with the responsibilities of that's already included? Because it's and I feel like if we are making it a committee, I feel like that's partly putting extra work on members of the council with all the other work that we have on top of it.
Yeah. Did you want to respond to that? Sorry.
Amelia? Yeah, I definitely hear that. I think the way that I'm thinking about this is differentiating between chair and committee roles. And so the way that I'm thinking about this too is to see President's Cabinet as a committee. I fully believe that it deserves the same way that I, earlier this year, voted other members onto committees themselves, based on speeches, based on people's capacities, based on people's interests, based on people's lived experience on this campus, based on people's commitment to different things. I think that process, President's Cabinet deserves that process. And I think that the chairship, similar to how she mentioned, parliamentary order is the chair. And so I think the combination of the two can create, what has been said of this hierarchical order. And I say that because when you have the designation of the chair, then everybody else are technically counselors. I mean, we all are counselors. But when you have that designation between chair and counselor, and then the chairs go to President's Cabinet, that does create, that relationship between the chair and then the chair and people in President's Cabinet. And not to say that it wouldn't, as Levi mentioned, not to say that it wouldn't for other counselors, but I believe that, if we really are a flat structure, then I believe that this is a way to fully live up to those values. And if I may yield some time to Sky.
Sky, quick response.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that per our constitution, we have standing committees and advisory committees. Our standing committees are committees that have some sort of power within the actual council. So like our budget committee gets to allocate things, and they may bring things to the full council, but they have some sort of power. Advisory committees have no power, have no anything. They're there to advise the council. They're there to go to meetings. So then an example of advisory committee would be up back. It would be our policy, university committees, university-wide committees. An example of an advisory committee. I'm the representative for an advisory committee for the police bill, the what's it called, the campus safety center, and I would go to those meetings and report back to the council. I think that President's Cabinet should be no different, and that it is just someone with no additional powers. They're just representing the council when they need one person for a meeting and then reporting back.
For sake of time, because this is the first read and there is still time to make changes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to yield my time to Irvi to ask her question, and then I want to move to Mike, last but not least, and then I want to go ahead and move on. So Irvi.
I just want to make a comment. Will it just create a lot of confusion who is going to the President Cabinet, since you open the door for every counselor to report to the President Cabinets directly?
I would argue no, mainly just because it would go through the same process as, Levi is our representative for shared governance. At the beginning of the year, we were told that this would be a committee. People were allowed to put their names down and say that they wanted to be on that committee, and then we voted them in. So it would follow that same process where people would say, hey, I'm really committed. I want to go to President's Cabinet. Promise I'll go to every meeting. We would vote them in, and then they would go, is essentially the same process that would follow. So I don't think it would create any confusion. If anything, I feel like it has the potential to create more consistency, because even though Levi and I stayed the same chairship both semesters this year, it's not required that we do. So it would just keep it a little bit more consistent. And then Mike.
Hello, everybody. Can everyone hear me? Sorry for my tardiness. When it snows, no one knows how to drive on I-25, apparently. I have a question, and then I have another question. But first, I want to ask Amelia and Sky the first question. What have you seen that has prompted you to write this?
Yeah, I can actually give a recent example. And again, I don't mean this to be any negative or unsatisfactory reflections on the way that our current chair structures are working, or how our two wonderful chairs have been doing an amazing job this whole academic year. But one example that I can think of is how the call for, so we're in the middle of getting a new provost again. And that process is really, really important to the way that student life functions, to the way that things on this university functions. And when I heard that there was a chair member who was asked to sit on the committee to review the provost, I was, very happy for them. But at the same time, I was like, is that only an opportunity that is extended to the chairs, because the chairs are in closer proximity to the conversations that are being held within the president's office? And that's just one example of how I'm thinking about the ways that power is concentrated there, and the way that I think there is a clear distinction between chair and potentially, president's cabinet as a committee itself. I also think, when I look on the agenda, I would love to see, reports from president's cabinet as a standing committee. I think that could be a really powerful and streamlined way to further more than you both already have. Streamline that information. And so that is just one example where I felt that way. I don't know. I will also like to yield some time to Sky as well. Sky.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the points that Amelia touched on, so I won't repeat them for sake of time. But I also want to say that let's imagine next year whoever gets appointed as one of the chairs also gets appointed as the president's cabinet representative. That's totally possible. When they're going to president's cabinet, never will they be like, I'm the chair of TSAC, I'm here. They're going to be like, I'm the representative that's been sent to president's cabinet. It's not an actual, like, it needs to be a different person. It's just, it needs to have a different vibe to it, so that administration should look at whoever they're speaking with as a representative of the council, not as a leader of the council in any space. And if there are currently university bodies asking for a chair to sit on their committee, I think that we've done a poor job of communicating to administration that our chairs are no different than any other councilor.
Mike.
All right, well, interesting. Let me touch on Amelia's point first. So I was, for our last provost, I was on that committee. I'm actually the one that recommended Haley for that. They usually go to the trustees first, and then you recommend. My first recommendation was the chair of the council, because so she has capacity, she knows what she's doing. It was Haley, the kind of person I recommended. Furthermore, to Sky's point, the overall conversation here, I am against this amendment for a few reasons, mostly on the principle of it. I've been here for 3 years. I think I'm the eldest on this council at the moment, and I've seen it's cool. I've seen the flattened structure arguments, and I was actually initially for it at the beginning. I came into this kind of, everyone had the idea of a flat structure. It kind of led to lack of transparency with counselors and their individual work and accountability. That was the big point. And a lot of what I've done these past 3 years is kind of push away a little bit that flat structure, kind of poke around and see how we can make it better. And what I've kind of learned at this point here is we say hierarchy. Throw around gets a bad word. I want to challenge y'all to think of it more as leadership. I think every body, every group, every team needs a leader at its front. And I'd actually probably, in my opinion, recommend the opposite. I think our chairs need to have more power up top. I think we need a better way of reaching our goals. And I think kind of how Haley and Levi have modeled it has been really fantastic and what chairs need. I just wish they kind of would push it more, because there is that issue of accountability and transparency. And if there's less of that, what gets done? And I'll further add, we're already a flat structure anyway. Everything we can do on this council requires a vote of the whole. We can remove people at the end of the day. A vote of the whole is where the power is lied. And then we want to kind of flesh out some of these hierarchical structures. Well, I mean, we can do our best, but at the end of the day, we still have a budget committee. That the only voting members are the chairs of the committees. We have a board of trustees who has, I mean, that's another powerful concentrated position. We have SACAB as well. I think that the principle of this amendment brings us backwards. I think for us to be taken a little more seriously on this campus and to really kind of thrive as a body, I think we need to be doing the opposite. I think we need to be kind of a body that kind of can communicate better with the administration. I think administration likes what we're doing now. They did not like what we're doing 2 years ago. That's my piece. I am in opposition.
Brief response from Sky, and then I do want to get to Patrick, and then I want to move on.
Yeah,
I'll yield my time.
I want to just respond a little bit to what Mike said. So I see there being 2 parts to what you said. One of them is that we need a little bit more leadership within the council, which on its face, a leader of the council, I would disagree with completely. I think that we need leadership of individuals, not for the council's leadership of the students. But accountability and transparency. I absolutely agree. I don't think the chairs now in the future or should ever or do ever have the authority for accountability or transparency of the council. I think that that lies with the accountability committee. I think we should bolster our accountabilities, guidelines, and procedures, something that I know they're actively working on today and will continue to work on. I think that that's where we should leave the accountability because that leaves it in the hands of multiple people, in the hands of a vote, and not in the hands of one person. I think that we, as the whole of the body where the power is stored, can vote on anything. But if we have a specific person representing us at different kinds of meetings with upper administration, they see that person as being more powerful than the others, and you have influence to say what we want without our necessarily our approval or talk, other than just electing you as chair.
All right, I'm gonna move over to Patrick for one final comment, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the RAD resolution.
Yeah, similar to what Mike was saying, power within the council, according to the Constitution, it is the power of the whole, not of the one. So our chairs don't necessarily have a higher power than us. They can't vote in favor of us, similar to just like any of us. I'm looking over the Constitution. Responsibility of the chair is to, maintain order within here and in our meetings, and also to attend their meeting with the president's cabinet. Likewise, similar, you have the accountability committee who are in charge of amending the Constitution, and then they have their meetings with each individual counselor. So you could say that's a power. You got the budget chair, who we have our budget committee meetings where I decide, or the council really decides. I first have to decide if I approve the funding to go to voting, and then we have the budget committee all as a whole vote. That doesn't mean I have more power. And then you additionally have the PR committee who are able to make events and have a larger portion of our budget, and that's a responsibility, not a power. So each individual has a due responsibility to the student council. I believe this one is a responsibility for the chair, and I think you're right. And making sure that the higher administration understands that this is not a leadership role in the sense of for the whole council, but is a leader from the council, just like each of us in the council here known as leaders. So it is not necessarily they're the leader of the council, but they're a leader part of the rest of the leaders. I think maybe we can making that distinction would be probably better rather than adding a whole nother step into the process. I yield.
Perfect. I think this was a very good conversation, and you guys have some ideas to think about and possible changes to make. Given this was just the first read, we are not going to be voting on it today. However, this will come up again next week. So if you guys have any additional questions, comments, concerns, or possible feedback or changes you guys want to see in this amendment before it is voted upon next week, make sure you speak to Amelia as well as Sky about that. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the Roadrunners After Dark resolution. And given I'm facilitating this meeting, is there anybody that's willing to read it? Thank you, Mike.
I would love to read it. I just need it to be brought up so I can read it. Oh, that's the wrong one. All right. Oh, Brandon, so excited to read this. All right, a resolution to participate in Roadrunners After Dark, authored by Haley Glass. Abstract: the student government, the Student Advocacy Council, maintains their goal of bringing more awareness to the council to better share advocacy initiatives. SGTSAC also wants to grow and establish relationships with various partners on campus in order to further this goal. SGTSAC will participate in Roadrunners After Dark, a CMEI event, by giving out free cotton candy to students. Whereas the Metropolitan State University Student Government, the Student Advocacy Council, who mission is to support the evolving needs of MSU Denver students by advocating in their best interest to enhance university experience opportunities. In order to achieve this goal, SGTSAC must be accessible by the student body. Whereas Roadrunners After Dark will be an extremely popular event for students with more than 400 students currently registered to attend. This provides an excellent opportunity to interact with students and share information about who we are and what we do. Whereas to capture the attention of the students, we will be providing cotton candy for free to students at this event. In addition to giving out cotton candy, we will interact with students, sharing information on who we are and why we are at this event. Whereas the cotton candy machine, as well as sugar and cones, will be purchased for $500. The cotton candy machine will be used in future events that SGTSAC wants to host. Therefore, be it resolved, SGTSAC will participate in Runners After Dark on April 30th by serving cotton candy to students for free. The funding of the cotton candy machine and associated items will be taken out of the Public Relations Fund. Therefore, be it resolved, SGTSAC will staff this cotton candy machine for the duration of the event to interact with the student body with a sign-up link to follow. Authored by Haley Glass.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike, for reading that. I did send this over to the PR committee, but I did not hear back in time before I just went ahead and sent it out. But I did want to double check with y'all and make sure that we are still okay with the funding coming out of the Public Relations Fund, because I know this was in discussion previously, but I didn't get 100% confirmation.
See.
Perfect. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? I see Will. And then Irby. Perfect. Thank you.
I forget, but and remind me, but is it possible to still endorse this?
I mean, I don't see why not, but you don't really have to. It's okay.
I really love the sentiment of this. I just forgot to endorse it when I read it, and I think this would be fantastic for a few reasons. Buying the machine itself and having it as something that we can bring in students for tabling for ourselves, or even me and Matt even discuss potentially not necessarily renting it out, because that would imply a financial fee, but get I don't know what another word would be, but lending it to student orgs for events, as long as they sign a waiver of saying, like, if they break it, then they got to replace it or whatever. But I think also with RAD, or Roadrunners After Dark, and hearing how many people have already signed up for it and seeing the potential of it becoming a yearly thing, I think this resolution really would set a great precedent for Roadrunners After Dark if it becomes a yearly thing. And also the vending machine, the cotton candy vending machine, is a good idea. That's a good return of investment, in my opinion.
Perfect. Thank you, Will. It seems like Armando has a direct response real quick.
I just want to make sure you all know that the ship has sailed in terms of y'all owning or purchasing the machine. CMEI is doing this. This was the opportunity for you all to be involved. We had to purchase the machine already. Everything's already done.
I was under the impression that we were reimbursing y'all for it and that it would be ours, is what I thought based on my conversation with Steven.
So I think it's still kind of
Unless
like
that was a miscommunication.
It's been a weird custody battle, I will say.
Oh no, not a custody battle over the cotton candy machine.
But I just want to make sure that, like, we just need to get this out.
I had
If y'all want it, y'all can
Irby
have it.
next.
We just make sure this gets out.
I'll yield my time to Irby.
Thank you, Amelia.
Are we also putting up the flyers for this event that we're giving the free cotton candies or anything social?
Yeah, go for it. Is it direct, I assume?
Um, so I kind of been out of the loop. I've been really busy outside of TSAC, but now that I'm finally like coming back in and fully putting my attention in it, I would agree to create a flyer if you want to. We could create a separate flyer, but we do have to like obviously like communicate with CMEI because they're all hosting the event. So I'm not opposed to that idea if you want to.
And just for a point of reference, as a CMEI employee who has been flyering for this event, I don't know that it would be necessary. We've got a ton of flyers. We've been doing a ton of work with this. And like I said, there's already 400 people who have purchased tickets for this event, probably even more at this point. So I don't know if it's necessary for us to create an additional flyer because there's already going to be students there. Just maybe something for us to.
I'll yield to her.
Yield to Jamani real quick.
I was just saying we could you TSAC could repost because CMEI has already made a whole bunch of there's plenty of don't like
Yeah.
there's plenty of videos and stuff
Yeah.
like with the things, so we could just like repost all the videos.
Perfect.
That's all.
Mike, is this direct or new topic?
It's on topic.
I'm gonna go to this. It's on topic.
Yeah.
Mike.
Oh, thank you. I would like to endorse this, but I don't even asterisk. I would like us to be the sole proprietor of this cart, and I will indeed fight to get this cart into our office and branded as TSAC. So keep it in there, Brandon.
Okay.
Endorsed with
I
the
yield my
asterisk.
time to Sky.
Thank you, Amelia. Sky.
Yeah, I would actually support an amendment to this resolution if a counselor would propose it, stating that we will provide the funding for this cotton candy machine so long as we maintain custody of the cotton candy machine after this event.
That's some tea right there. Can I ask a clarifying question to the advisors real quick? So the cost that I have in the current resolution is the cost for the cotton candy machine and like the sugar and stuff and all of that. So should I just like adjust this and say that while custody is still being determined, we for now will allocate the funding to purchase the cotton candy machine. However, if we are not going to be the sole proprietors of it, we will only cover the cost of the materials, so like the sugar and cones. We'll get the machine. Okay.
You can have the machine
Okay.
as long as there is joint custody.
You guys can borrow it from us.
Yes. I yield for Sky's follow-up.
Yes. Sugar guy.
I would still support adding an amendment to this resolution, stating that while you may have supervised time with in better language, supervised custody time with this, it is still the sole custody of TSAC as we paid for it with our student money.
I would say that I don't think it's necessary because we borrow stuff from CMEI way too often. I mean, our coffees clubs and our coffee and the grab and go event, we borrowed the coffee urns from CMEI. We borrow materials from them. I think it's understood that as TSAC is a branch of the CMEI office, I don't think it's necessary.
By the way, real
We share
quick, we still do have a lot of stuff to go through new business, and we haven't even started getting the board and committee updates. And I would say we get on task and vote for this or not.
Awesome. Thank you to my vice chair. Will, did you have a pressing comment before we make a vote?
Yeah. Sorry, just real quick. Just I agree with you, Haley, with the sentiment of that. As long as we establish that it's a borrowable item between us, that's completely fine. As long as the resolution language reflects that, I'm okay with voting yes for this.
All I have in there is that the cotton candy machine as well as the sugar and cones will be purchased for roughly $500. The cotton candy machine can then be used in future events that SGTSAC wants to host. I feel like that language is vague enough where we can share custody a little bit, and then we can make sure that we establish some sort of guidelines about like sharing it or whatever if we need to. I feel like that's only necessary for clubs and orgs and not for like CMEI sponsored events, but we can definitely work on that another time. I think this is solid for this. Okay, so
Okay.
do I have a motion on the floor?
Motion yes to what you said. Motion to
Second
amend the
motion.
resolution.
Seconded.
Wait, what was the motion?
I vote to motion. I mean, vote on this resolution. I motion.
Motion to approve this resolution?
Seconded.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Perfect, the resolution passes.
Good job, everyone.
Okay, the next thing that I have as a part of this on the agenda is I have a when to meet link in the agenda. Given that we are running kind of short on time, I'm not going to force y'all to do that this week. However, if not enough people have signed up next week, I will sit here and make you all fill it out in front of me. So I'm going to send it out in the chat, fill it out. Y'all did a great job with that for Earth Week, so I trust you'll do the same for this. But we do need coverage. No CMEI employees are able to help, including myself, Sam, and Jamani. So we'll really need your guys' help for staffing this. Amelia?
Lavender graduation is that night, and I can potentially support with the end shifts, but the beginning shifts I will be.
Perfect. No worries. I totally understand if not everybody can be able to help. We were thinking at least 2 people at all times just to make sure there's time for like bathroom breaks and you guys can interact with the students in a fruitful manner. But I will send that out later for sake of time. And next thing I have on the agenda is stuff from Stephen, but should we maybe move to the amendment first and then save that for later? Okay, perfect. I motion that we move to the amendment to add guidelines and procedures and postpone the paper plate awards and summer committee suggestion from Stephen.
Second.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Perfect. Is Matt online still?
I am here.
Perfect. All you, Matt.
Hi. So this is an amendment to incorporate committee procedures and guidelines written by myself and William Coates, endorsed by Haley Glass, Sky Childress, and Michael Warner. Abstract. MSU Denver Student Government, the Student Advocacy Council, has reached a stage in its growth where we can build a sustainable structure for those who follow in our footsteps. Being able to create and utilize procedures and guidelines provide a better structure and transparency to the work that SGTSAC does. As such, this amendment provides a structure for committees to create procedures or guidelines pertaining to the committee's execution of their responsibilities outlined within the Constitution. Whereas a procedure is an organizational description of how a policy is implemented, procedures will be utilized for committees' responsibilities that are tied to policies outside of Section 4, subsection 1 of the Constitution, which is, for clarity's sake, that is a section that outlines the committee's responsibilities. This would cover any budget committee procedures that are influenced by university policies and should be created as procedures, as these would include steps that would have to be followed. This would also include most of accountability committees because Section 4, subsection 5 states that the accountability measures are to be addressed by the accountability committee. Whereas a guideline is a suggestion, guidance, or structure on how one could accomplish the responsibilities of the committee. Guidelines would be utilized for other committee responsibilities that do not need to be as rigid and enforce other policies. This would be more like legacy documents that outline how things can be done, not how things have to be done. Committee guidelines and procedures should only be approved for responsibilities outlined in the Constitution. If another responsibility or committee needs to be created, then that new responsibility or committee needs to be passed as a constitutional amendment. Whereas for a committee to create procedures or guidelines, the committee would have to have 3 committee members to draft the procedures or guidelines. If a committee has less than 3 members, then council members not on the committee can help the committee with these documents. Whereas for approval of procedures and guidelines, they need to be brought before the whole council for approval. They will be presented as a resolution. Since guidelines are more like suggestions, they would only need a simple majority to be approved by the council. Procedures, on the other hand, are mandatory and would need a supermajority to be approved by the council. Whereas going through this process will make the guidelines and procedures official and empowered by our Constitution. Therefore, be it resolved that this amendment will create an official policy on how guidelines and procedures can be created to help SGTSAC with its internal structure, transparency, and leaving a document legacy of the amazing work that SGTSAC has done and can do in the future. So
Any
proud
questions?
of you, Matt.
Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this? Michael Warner.
I have a comment. I like this. I do like this amendment for a few reasons because I can see the progression of the last 3 years. Because first of all, you kind of put the structure in place, and then you realize some things kind of get messed up. There's no guardrails in place, right? So then you put the guidelines in place to kind of further along kind of the continuity and mission of it. I can see this kind of. It's another reason why I wrote the budgets guidelines last year. We had a budget that really didn't have procedures around it and how we used it. It wasn't really equitable in how we were using our money at that point, and it wasn't really strategic. And now we have a committee that kind of works to that goal. I think, from what I can tell in this resolution, I think next guidelines to be created are probably for PR, structure some things in there and cement some things in PR, and then definitely for sure accountability and what other sustainability. They got their mission statement. I definitely think they need to cement some guidelines. I agree as well. So I'm excited because this kind of laid that framework to do so. That's just my comments. I like this.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. I see a delegate with a question. Would somebody like to yield their time?
I yield my time.
Perfect. Sky?
Yeah, I wanted to say I love this. Every section of it, I like it. I want to repeat everything you said. And also, I think that because procedures would be just as binding as the Constitution would, I think they should be treated as amendments to procedure, so that they would be required to be introduced one week and voted on the next or after that, and not just that they would require supermajority. That way you would have an additional week of consideration before you're adding language that would be just as binding as Constitution would be.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments, concerns regarding this amendment? Perfect. Given this is the first read, we will not be voting today. However, you will be seeing this again next week. So if you have anything that comes up, any changes you want to suggest, go ahead and talk to Matt or Will about that. And then next on here, I have Steven.
Good afternoon, everyone. A couple things for you. First thing are paper plate awards. So in years past and at other student governments that I've advised, there were things called paper plate awards. I know in previous student government iterations that they've had these. These are essentially awards given by the council to other counselor members. So I don't know if that's something you all want to do for this year's inauguration. I'd love to incorporate that. It promotes camaraderie amongst everyone here. I would also recommend including the delegates because we do have a large delegate pool here. And so what I can do, if you all are interested, and this does not require a vote, this just requires you all to say, yes, Stephen, we would like this. We can create a Qualtrics. And then what we can do is you can put up to 2 awards forth and who you would like to nominate for them. And if your awards are selected, we will let you know, and then you can design whatever award that you're willing to give out. So for example, let's say Haley decides to nominate Michael for the Dracula Award. And so let's say that gets selected, and the award is because Michael shows up with his very long trench coat, all in black, doled out and all. And let's say we say, okay, yeah, Haley, you can present that. We would say, Haley, this award, you can move forward with this award. Please design it. Please have it ready to be presented at inauguration. If that's something you all want to do. We call it paper plates because it could be as simple as sketching something on a paper plate. And we've seen that before too. It does not have to be anything wild. So, and it's up to the person who's awarding it to give it to someone. So is that something you all would like?
Yes.
Any opposition?
Any concern?
Send that Qualtrics, please.
All right. I'll send it out and it'll go into
I'm already
the full.
plotting and scheming.
Oh
So am
boy. It'll go to the full TSAC council. And just please know that as Armando and I review them, the goal is to get one for every person, every counselor, every delegate. I'm not saying that, let's say, Michael, you have to put forth 19 different nominations. If you want to, you can, but we just want to give everyone an opportunity to be recognized by one another. Okay. Second thing that I wanted to sort of bring up as a possibility for you all. In other student governances that I've advised, they've always chartered what's called summer committee. Summer committee is a group of newly elected representatives that work from the May through June, even throughout the course of the summer. No business is necessarily conducted or voted on, but rather things that summer committee has typically done has been, let's schedule all of our tabling days for outreach. What events do we want to put forth? Let's plan out our welcome week event or welcome month event. Various things that can sometimes take a little bit of time and you may miss the mark early in the beginning of the semester with outreach for student government. That puts less on the PR committee moving forward, and it's a way for the student government to continue to function without actually having to conduct official business. Instead, you're outlining things or outlining plans, ideas, and concepts for the coming year. Ideally, you would meet once a week. It wouldn't be the entire council. If the entire council wanted to, that's fine too. But essentially, Armando and I would come to you and say, okay, this week, let's talk about what you all are thinking and what you all are wanting to do for for all of these initiatives. We don't necessarily talk about goals because that's usually done at actual summer retreats. We don't necessarily talk about funding allocations. It's more of scheming, transition, that sort of thing. And again, it's merely a suggestion.
Any thoughts or opinions on that?
Oh, you with the Sky first, and I'll go.
Perfect, Sky.
I was just gonna ask a question. Would there be any current counselors that would have capacity to also attend some of these summer committee things and maybe into June after May?
Me. Will? Is that you would be able to, or I guess you would be a returning counselor, probably.
Returning counselors.
Maybe.
Who me?
Yeah, regardless. Yeah.
We'll see.
I was like,
We'll see.
because I have Mike with a question, so I just wasn't sure if that was a hand in regards to that. But
No, it's just one thing to consider. I think it's a great idea. But I do think of like before Sky raised your hand, I was thinking the same thing of just capacity. Great idea. Just something to think about for sure. Student capacity.
that was your question in regards
Thank you
to.
for that addition, Will.
Can you clarify? Sorry, I yield.
So my question was asking current counselors that are not running again if they have capacity to help us out during the summer, May, possibly June or later, to help us with that transition, more similar to how Tulane kind of does theirs.
Do I do? Any other, Mike? You do? Maybe?
I do. Well, yes. I don't. I mean, I'll be around. I live here. So I don't mind helping out in the summer. I mean, I'll probably be like less opinion, more like structural based, how I think like things should run, sort of thing. Or like how I can. I think transition plans is kind of what we're getting at here. I'll get to more about my kind of transition plan, my update here. But I think just a word of caution. The first year I was elected to TSAC, and I think in this room, I think only Armando remembers this, but we used to spend like lots of days in the TSAC office, like working like it was a 9 to 5. There's like 3 of us, me, Paul, and Dan. And it kind of drove us a little crazy, stir crazy. It's definitely like, I think a little more regimented. I think the advisors could regiment some of this, I think, because we were kind of on our own. We had no idea what a TSAC was. We had to learn what that was. But if it's like regimented and then there's some structure to it, I think this could be very effective and help y'all definitely game plan for the next year, because next year is going to be very exciting. And there's a lot of work to be done. So yeah, I like the idea though.
I'd like to hear maybe from counselors that are hopefully going to be returning next year, depending on the outcome of the election. Susanna?
Depending on the outcome of the election, I think this is honestly a really good idea for PR, because this is gonna definitely take off a lot of work in the shoulders, especially starting events in the fall. It's like it goes really fast. And planning it out, I'm not opposed to it. Even if I don't get elected and stuff like that, I think I would be willing to help to create that transition document, because they will definitely help future councils who wants to be in PR.
Will, I see you with your hand up. Is that residual or is that a new comment?
It's based off like your question,
Go for it.
like about hearing for potential new counselors returning. I love the idea. It's a great idea, and I think we should also try to balance capacity for counselors. Not to say I can't help with all of that, because I definitely can, but I'm also thinking about other counselors who might not have the same capacity. But I think that can all be worked out with the advisors. and it's just something I just would like to point some attention to.
Perfect. Thank you, Will. Gonna pass it back over to Stephen.
This is just a direct comment. In terms of capacity to, just for folks that are returning, please know, or seeking to return, please know that Armando and I have started planning what we're thinking about doing for this year. And for those of you who were here last summer, you know that we had the summer retreat and then we had a day for TSAC. 2 days for TSAC. We're looking to do it a little bit differently. The summer retreat will most likely still be incorporated into that, but we're also looking at doing a TSAC wide thing once a month. So you're really 3 additional dates. So Will, I hear you on capacity, and this is going to be something we are going to be moving forward with. So plan on something in June, July, August, plus the actual summer retreat planned through CMEI.
Awesome. Any last comments on that? I don't think we're looking to do an official vote. I think that was just getting a feel, right, Stephen? Cool.
Just a suggestion.
Perfect. So then I think we can go ahead and move into board and committee announcements and updates, starting with our very own Board of Trustees representative, Michael Warder.
Not for long. Just kidding. So actually, one thing I've actually been working on for this is I've created like an official transition guide for the Board of Trustees. It's something I've mentioned in my own fraternity, and it's something I'm kind of working on, and it's going to be tailor made to whoever wins that election. I'm kind of working on how I want to kind of make that. But it will basically give you what you need to know from day one, what's important, what is the less important, who is currently in the positions of leadership to work, who you should reach out to, all that stuff. So yeah, it's currently being kind of tailor-made, and I'm really excited to see the results of this current election, and we'll see there. But that's currently what I've been working on. And I will be at some meeting to kind of introduce whoever wins that elected position. I will introduce them.
Thank you, Mike. Moving over to SACAB, Siobhan and Will. Do you have anything? Siobhan?
Yes, for the SACAP. So today we discuss about the RTD survey, and it's closing today. Also, the founder of the I pronounce the word Commutrix, yeah. So he explained the benefits of using that app. It's via website and mobile app, and they're still deciding on whether to use the RTD pass for the coming semester and moving forward. So it's seeming like the Commutrix app is much cheaper than you using the RTD mandatory transit pass or the opt-in option. So for the Commutrix, it'll cost the student $125, and with the RTD mandatory transit pass, it'll be $250, or even the opt-in or opt-out option that would be $250. So you could do the math. Seeming like the Commutrix is cheaper and has better benefits also, and that's it. We also discussed a little bit about the bylaws, but we were so deep in talking the conversation about the RTD pass. So I yield.
Will, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. So they're closing the survey today. I would highly encourage anyone in the room or anyone listening online, if you haven't done the survey, please do so. Your input is valuable.
Perfect. Thank you, Will. Moving over to an update from our elections manager, Sam.
All right. You guys hear me okay? I'm on my Bluetooth headphones.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Sick. Okay. Want my notes here. All right. First things first, we are currently at 353 votes. That's online and in person added up. So that's pretty cool. That was as of like 2 hours ago. So let's see if we can bump that up anymore before polls close tonight. I am tabling right now in Multicultural Lounge just because on all the flyers and on the Instagram post I said we'd have a table on Friday, so I figured I'd pick up any stragglers. So feel free to come by and say hi after the meeting. I'll be here all day. Results are going to be announced by Friday the 25th. No promises on if they're going to be earlier than that, but they'll definitely be available on the 25th, and we'll publish them in a few different ways, and I'll let you all know how that goes. In general, I'm pretty happy with the results of the election, and I'll do more of like a breakdown of like how everything went next week, probably after we have all the results published. But I just wanted to get like a preemptive, like big thank you to everyone who helped me out, our advisors and co-counselors and delegates who were all very helpful. So I appreciate that. I also have the link to the town hall. I think they put it up on YouTube like a day or two ago. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. And that could be a fun watch if you're interested. 2 seconds. Bam. All right. That's pretty much everything on the elections end. Like I said, next week I'll go into like a bigger breakdown of the whole elections period with the results. But pretty happy about it. So thanks, y'all.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. And just a big shout out to Sam for all the work he's been doing on elections. Perfect. Moving over to accountability committee. Will.
Hello, everyone. So me and Matt, as stated earlier, we are still working on those guidelines. That is our utmost priority because in the case that either one of us aren't here for the next cycle, we want to make sure that whoever steps in our shoes can appropriately run or appropriately handle the accountability committee and the great responsibilities that go with it for TSAC's functioning. We do think it's vital that we get those guidelines in before we go into the next cycle, and just in case if me or Matt aren't elected in, or something else, God forbid, were to happen, or not to sound dark or grim or anything here, but yeah, we do think those guidelines are our top priority, and I believe we will have those presented by next Friday. But yes, that is all the updates. And we're still working with the advisors on one of the delegates. We're hoping they respond soon. If not, I will be drafting up a recommendation for the council on how to handle that situation, and with the advisors' input, of course.
Perfect. Thank you, Will. We can go ahead and move over to budget committee. Patrick.
Thank you. So just an update from our last committee meeting, and it's going to require a vote, is that we did approve the funding for the communications club and debate club. If you can pull that out, Brandon. Just get off of the move Will out. Thank you. Okay, so this is one is I'm pretty sure this one's for the debate club. So the first one, we're going to be asking for funding for farmers engraving, for medallions and trophies and plaques. So a little total from that's going to come out to let's see, let me just hover over this. It'll tell me. Yeah, for $1,488.90. And then the other approval that we also made in the budget committee was for the committee for the Delambeda Pi Ada. So this is for they forgot to take this out. It was for the communication club, but they forgot to take out that one on me.
I
But the
think
total.
that's their official name, but they also go more informally
yeah?
by the communication club.
Oh,
Sorry, just
I
for
didn't know that.
clarification. is it not?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, no, it's just the same form that I
Okay.
use, so it just gets messed up. But they're asking for plaques and trophies, T-shirts for participants, judge, and club members, estimated shipping costs for the printers, the card fee, and hoodies for participants as well. So it's gonna be for merch, and the total of that's gonna be was for $1,493. Since this isn't an amendment nor a resolution, I did want to put it up, motion to vote for this for the approval.
Seconded. Any objections to approving either of these fundings? Any abstentions from the voting? Perfect. Both of them will be approved then.
Congratulations, everybody, to the debate club. Well, the president is also our elections manager.
We've got a couple of questions, Patrick. Starting with Mike and then to Will.
Yeah.
Real quickly, just two questions. How much money do we have left in our that fund specifically?
Really, I was just about to go to the thingy. Can you change it to the master? Okay, there we go. This is up to date.
So we have okay.
This is up to date. This is not including the just now recently approved, but we have a total of $10,750.
What? We've used more for student organizations than that, have we? I feel like that might be said incorrect.
We can look at it.
Yeah, maybe look at that real quick.
Will, did you have a question? Before I'll go over anything I'm gonna go over the master budget and then, or you wanna?
As long as the chair allows me to speak.
Yeah, you can speak, Will. Thank you.
I will say I had the exact same question. That's why, yeah.
Fantastic. Let me answer you. So into the breakdown of these. So we first have the Sustainability Committee Fund. So keep in mind the PR, Sustainability, and Leadership Development Fund are giving the biggest changes here because those are the ones that we did in reallocation during our special meeting. So so we reduced the funds for the Sustainability Committee by $300, which resulted to $6,700. Total funds used for sustainability is $4,786.73. Their total remaining is $1,913.27. Student Orgs Fund, it was commenced at $15,000. Funds used currently has been $4,250. Remaining is $10,750. Public Relations Fund, we decreased it $500 per our reconsideration. So it's a total of $21,000. We have spent a total of $8,816.49 with a remaining of $12,183.51. The Budget Committee is zero as last week. Office budget was at $20,000. Funds used currently is $27,119.34. Total remaining is $880.66. For the Leadership Development Fund, I did increase this by, I believe it was 2,000 something. Let me go here. Actually, this was the increase that we took from the rainy day fund and the PR and sustainability committee. So that's why it is increased to 12,464. And we used all of that, so that leaving total remainder of zero. Accountability remains at 750. Staff hourly 10,000. Use 10,000. Elections, it was at 7,000. Currently, I'm not sure how much, but I'm pretty sure it should be 7,000. Rainy day fund, we increased that, but we also decreased it. So the total right now, after all the funds moved from the reallocation and reconsideration we did, the total remaining for that is $958.61. And student delegates. So let me go over to the student org allocations. So as you can see here, I have all the other orgs that we have approved here. Total we used is 9,319. So I do have to update the other one. Sorry, y'all. I thought I did it to the CD, and it's Excel sheets. So the total right now we have is $5,680.68. That is including our approval from last meeting of NACLAN, which is $1,479.32. And the modeling nations, here are the other ones that I have included here. So I think it's all these are all the ones we have updated up to date. PR. Yeah. Any questions? That's regarding this one.
Real quick, Patrick, then. So we'd be sitting about 2680 remaining in there, if I'm correct then?
Yes,
Okay,
with the new ones that we have approved. So
Okay.
we, yeah, tried measuring it as we went through, so we do have enough. But that is the
Okay.
whole purpose of this is for the student orgs.
Perfect. Thank
Mike,
you. Mike?
Quick suggestion. I know CMEI has this. I think what we do is we put out one last call for any funding, and then I think we close this fund for the semester. It's already pretty close to being depleted. I'd say, I mean, give them like 2 weeks, and really because I don't know. That's what CMEI does. We should probably close this off. So that's just my thought.
yeah, just because I'm looking at the after we're posting this one, so the updated version will be just as like Haley says to be about minus like estimated is 3,000, so we have about $2,680 left. So that would be our max. So we can possibly do only one more student organizations before we run out of that fund.
Will, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering then, do we still have about eight 8,500 then with what we just approved in the student funds?
Yeah, so as you can see here, this is the projected amount that we had total. This is a total spend amount. And as you can see, this is from ranging from October, from our brother to brother Afrotech, to the last one that we approved on Monday, which is NACLAND. So each of these are accounted for. And then the difference of that is 5,680. Now these two that we just approved, the first one was about was $1,488.90. And then you have the other ones, 1,493.05. So if we just round that up to $3,000, we'd be a total of $2,680.68. So like I said, it would be about one more student org could be approved for the max, and then we'd have to be adjusted per their budget request. And just looking over the PR, so you guys can take a look at this. I did subtract here the projected amount. So our latest one we have is menstrual products. That's our latest expenditure that we have, which is $500. So this is up to date as well. So just doing some quick math here, because I know some people have been concerned about the total budget. As you can see here, the food for finals last year was ranging around $5,000. And we don't plan to change it too much. So if you subtract 5,000 and 12,000, we'll have about 7,183.51 left over for our food for finals, and that's for the rest of the semester that we have.
Perfect. I do see a couple questions from Matt and Will. I just want to know if they're pressing because I do know we only have 15 minutes left in the meeting and we still have quite a few announcements and updates to get through.
And is this for the, yeah.
Will, Matt?
Yeah, I'll just make it quick. So what's the deadline for the student orgs applying for the funds? Because a student org I've been in contact with is planning on applying, so I'd like to know like those deadlines and what they're required to present. But that can be an offline thing too,
That
like
could
just
be,
the
yeah.
specifics.
Well, Mike was going to answer that one.
Yeah, so I assume we're on the same page. I think it's like 2 weeks before the last meeting. I think it probably should be at the end of May, I'll be honest, because that's when transition plans are, all stuff. But it's also when we run out of money. So that's why I think we put it out there now and make a decision when we need to close this fund. Because I don't want students thinking there's money left at the end of the semester when there's no money or something. And we do have a scheduled calendar in there in the guidelines that we loosely follow. But just putting it out there. Armando, do you agree with that, do you think, or what do you think?
I think you're along the same lines. I believe in the calendar, it says the last weeks of April, first weeks of May, just because the orgs have about a month to allocate those funds.
So would we say that it would need to be proposed prior to next meeting or prior to our last meeting? Because if we're looking at last week, next week would be 2 weeks before, or yeah, the week before our final meeting, but it would be the 25th, and then the following meeting is May 2nd. So
I would, next meeting? Yeah, I say proposed by next meeting and then budget committee through bureaucracy through.
Can fund it by the next, can approve it by
Yes.
the next following meeting?
Let's do
Okay. Does that sound okay to the budget chair based on those guidelines?
Yeah, just following the guidelines. I mean, just like Mike said, we were talking about it offline not too long ago about how we should close that out, just to give everyone a good opportunity and awareness um of the deadline for that. And I did forget to put the 2,000 for the school supplies, so the actual PR events budget is $10,000. So with that 5,000 estimated of the of the food for finals, right? So we have 5,000 left over, and I believe we just approved 900
500
$500
for Brad.
for Rad. So I mean, we have about 4,500 left over, estimatedly available to us.
Is that including with estimates for the culture clash?
No, that is not including the culture class, but I think that's a
That
different.
can be an offline conversation.
Yeah.
No worries. Matt, was your question pressing, or are you okay if we move on?
Mine was actually the point about the school supplies.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to kick you. Moving over to PR committee.
I have a lot to say. So
If we need to extend, we can. So just go ahead with your update, and we can extend if we need to.
well, it's just like consistent updates. But right now, we're working on proof of. I just wanted to say I have a hard time finding the receipt.
Real quick, Susanna, sorry, I don't think your mic is working.
Hello.
Yeah, now
Okay.
it's working.
Just restating what I said. We were planning for food for finals, but I just have a hard time finding the receipts from last semester from ETIs. I'm looking at the receipt and I can't find it anywhere. Is there any way that it's somewhere else in the OneDrive?
Patrick?
Yeah, I have the copy for the e-ties invoice that we have, but usually we can also call. And I think I can, we can work together on that. And I'll update that into the OneDrive, for the receipt, but I can help you out with the invoice so we can just make the same order.
Okay, with the Odo, there was just gonna be a slight difference because for the vegan option, there was just like a lot of leftovers for that, so we probably want to do something different from that. And also another update for the culture clash event that with the tri-institutionals. I had a meeting with them yesterday at 10:30, and we discussed about the food and the prices that were discussed. And CCD is about putting 2 grand in their pot, and CU Denver was putting about 2 grand in their pot. And I told them that we need to wait because obviously we need to put a resolution. We have to agree with the budget and everything. And I told them I was going to give them an update by next Tuesday. And I was also planning to host a special meeting just to have that resolution passed because I honestly don't know what happened with this. But we're just gonna handle the food, which is our frescas is with CU Denver.
Our frescos is ours.
But I thought we agreed yesterday that we didn't.
Patrick also has it lined out in that draft resolution. So we can also discuss it a little bit more during the PR meeting to figure out those exact details if we want.
So if you guys want to go in the PR meeting today just to discuss what details about that, I would greatly appreciate that. And I think that is all I have for PR, beside working on the social media guidelines and the PR guidelines. But that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Anything to add to that, or was that?
I think I agree with you, Haley. Just something that we can talk at the PR meeting, just to break down the details. Yeah, if anyone is interested, we can talk to there because it's a little bit of a lengthy conversation.
Perfect. I can go ahead and do sustainability unless you want to. Cool. Earth Week next week. Make sure to participate in all the events, not just ours. There's a whole list of them. We've got one of the flyers in the office, but you can also check it out on their Instagram. I might just send that forward to like Jamani or somebody else and see if we can maybe just like repost what they have on their Instagram for some of it. Thank you everybody that signed up. There was a lot of you that signed up. I'm trying to see if we can maybe get 2 tables. I don't know, Victor, if you heard back on that yet. Probably not. That's fine. So that way we can have a little bit more space for the tote bag decorating, especially since there's gonna be so many of us helping with that. But we've got like the fabric markers and the tote bags and everything set for that. So thank you everybody that signed up to help. Don't forget to show up. And then Victor, can you just confirm how much we're ending up allocating towards catering?
They sent us the entire order that they were gonna send. That's including the mac and cheese, and they only wanted us to help with the burritos. And CU Denver helped with the burritos, which is like 400. So we're gonna match the 400 to make it $800, and that's all we have to put down. So $400.
So not $1,700 like we thought it was last meeting, because that was scary. Okay. Moving on to faculty senate and staff senate. Anything from that, Siobhan or Matt?
So
Matt?
no updates from any meetings, but the vice president of the staff senate came in and talked to us. It looks like they're probably going to be the new president of staff senate, because the other one is no longer with the university. Well, that's all I have as of right now.
Mike, follow-up question?
What's the vice president's name? Is probably gonna take over.
Yeah, it sounds like they want her to take over.
And then Siobhan, did you have anything to add?
No, Matthew. Who?
I can't remember.
Honestly, I'm waiting on the email from them. I don't remember their name off the top of my head.
Perfect. Was that all coming out of faculty and staff? Did you have a question? That was not my thing. Or maybe it is.
Updates, or should I do it now?
If it has to do with faculty.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yesterday, Faculty Senate also hosted their Day of Action, their National Day of Action, which was very exciting. So yesterday, April 17th, was a National Day of Action for higher education and for folks to be involved, students, faculty, and staff. Members in the National Day of Action to kind of work to protect student voice, student autonomy, and university autonomy in a time where, there's ever shifting political tides that have impacted that. Student, staff, and faculty voices are the most important ones on campus. And so Faculty Senate invited me to speak yesterday, and it was very good. And I did, feel a little, I felt some type of way that I didn't see some MSU Denver staff members there, as I stated in my statement. It was not recorded, but for folks who were there, you did see that I did call out some names. And that wasn't intended to be, what it was intended to be was to call accountability to some of the things that I hear in this building, but that only stay in this building and don't translate all the time outside of this building. I think, yeah, okay, you might be busy as everybody is, and you can't make it to something. I understand that, but something that I can't understand is only talking about student protection, student advocacy, and protecting our students in board meetings. There needs to those words need to be action oriented, and I firmly believe that. And so I got a few questions as to why I called out the certain MSU Denver staff that I did. And it was because those people work in student affairs. It was because those people work in DEI efforts. But it feels spineless, and it really does. And so if anybody has any questions about that for myself, please come and ask me. Or if anybody has any questions about what the Day of Action meant, please ask me. Victor?
Was that in representation of student government, or did they invite you solely for your own point of view? And so would that be something you should have brought to us before you presented to that? Or
So good question. So I'm not on faculty senate. I don't attend faculty senate, but there was a call out for students. And my professor, who's happens to be on faculty senate, he was like, "Does anybody want to speak?" And I was like, "Sure." So it was in my personal capacity, not in my TSAC capacity. And I didn't mention that. I forgot when I was giving my remarks. I forgot to mention that I was on TSAC just because I wasn't talking from my phone. I was just speaking off the dome. And so, but it was clear to me that that was a call that was made in faculty senate. It was something that faculty senate deeply cared about to have student voice there. And so I didn't attend those meetings, but I assumed that based on how much they wanted student voice and how much the president of faculty senate said, we are trying to get student voice. I assumed that they had announced it in faculty senate, and they had been doing a lot of flyering for the day of action. It's also a national day of action, and so this was something that I was primarily acting in my personal capacity, but I feel like personal capacity and TSEC capacity, a lot of time they overlap, but it felt kind of out of my jurisdiction because I'm not on the committee. Is this one working? Yeah. Siobhan?
Yeah, I was just because I haven't missed any meeting and I don't remember hearing an announcement about that. I mean, for faculty and staff senate. So I'm glad you cleared that up. Because my question was the same as Victor. Like, how did you got to represent? But thank you.
Real quick, looking at time here, I'm gonna go ahead and motion to extend the meeting by 15 minutes, taking us up to 1:30. Any objections or do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Perfect. Okay. All right. I think that was all for faculty and staff senate, if I'm not mistaken. Perfect. Yeah. Hello. Wait. Hello. Delegate updates. Does anybody? Do any of our delegates in the room have an update? Any of our delegates online? Doesn't sound like it, so then we can go ahead and move over to open floor announcements and updates. I have Levi, then Victor, then Mike, then Amelia, and I have one as well.
So real quick, my open floor announcement was about the CDHE or the Colorado Department of Higher Education meeting I had yesterday. We had the General Governor Polis come by and speak with us, and we all got to ask him questions. A lot of the other questions were kind of outside the purview. It was mainly like about tax stuff and some other stuff. The one I asked was about basically in their current political climate in our administration, how soon will we feel the effects of any kind of changes that they make, whether it be, creating new departments or getting rid of new departments. How soon will we feel the effects here? And he said on his level that any changes to like the Pell Grant, student loans will happen next year. Student immigration is, as you know, currently there's a lot of them leaving, and next year is going to be a lot less of them with the new changes next year coming into effect. And other than that, he said a lot of it's still in flux, so we don't really know how soon. He doesn't know how soon on his end all these changes will affect us. It could be tomorrow or maybe next year. We don't know.
Thank you, Levi. Was it Victor or Mike next? Rock, paper, scissors. No, I'm just kidding. Victor, then Mike.
So I got an email from some people at SACAP talking about a petition, resolution, what have you call it, for CU Denver specifically to lead the way in terms of trying to get some of their DEI immigration services initiatives back onto their campuses. They invited me to talk and speak a little bit about what we do here in terms of examples, and I'm telling them about how we still have our DEI programs, still have immigrant services programs, but administration is not necessarily in support, but they're not taken aside, is what I told them. So that's something that we had to battle, and I told them that we had to go down to grassroots organizing and try to help some of those students here on campus. But I was just telling them some of the things that TSAC does in terms of like the proposal for the JSSB, which I got word from Will Simpkins that we got a go ahead from AHEC, so we're just waiting on the president's go ahead. So we'll see what that happens. But I told them that in terms of MSU Denver's residual support, I would present it to the council and see how the council feels about the petition. See what you guys feel about, supporting this, since we do have. I'm thinking about optics in a sense. Like, if we do support something like this, will that in turn put a bigger target on our back, and we're going to have to shut down some of the programs that we have here because of the support. So I'm just thinking about all the possibilities and everything that can happen in support of this petition. But I told them that I was going to present it to the council here. They still haven't written it, but they said that next week, once they write it, they're going to send it to me, and I'll present it to you guys and see what you guys have. Read it over and give any feedback, and see if we want to support as a council, if we want to support this petition for CU Denver. I suggested that they do it instead of just one campus, that the same resolution be presented in all the CU regions. But that's just a suggestion. We'll know. We'll see if they take it or not in the next coming weeks. But yeah, just look for a petition in the group chat.
Thank you, Victor. Moving over to Mike.
You mentioned this to me, Haley. Isn't there an open forum for the provost candidates, the finalists, Monday?
There is. So we had the one for the first candidate, Matt Makeley, on this Monday. I'd sent that out to the chat. But we have the open forum for the second candidate is going to be this coming Monday from 10:30 to 11:30. And that is just going to be in the copia. So I can send out that in the chat as another reminder. Since now you have to scroll pretty far to find my initial message. Did you have a follow-up?
Yes. Furthermore, as a representative on that task force, what is your professional opinion of the two candidates, and who would you think serves the best interests of our students or our faculty and students? Furthermore,
Am I allowed to share that?
yes.
You repeat again.
So I'm asking. So Haley's our representative on the provost committee. Yep. There's two candidates they've been determined to. In her professional opinion, who do you think is probably one of the better candidates for that?
You can share your opinion. Yeah. You can divulge anything that occurs or any discussion items that are in the committee, but you as a TSAC member are absolutely able to share who you think would be best and why, if you're comfortable with that.
You also don't have to.
That's getting at, Mike, what you're asking.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how to share my opinion without getting into too much about what the committee discussed, like within internal meetings and such. However, I do lean towards interim Provost Makeley in my personal capacity. I was much more impressed with his understanding of our mission and values and his understanding of this institution. However, I would still highly recommend for everybody to go to the open forum for our other candidate, just to kind of give your thoughts and opinions as well, and kind of ask her questions in regards to our value and mission, given she's somebody that is coming from an outside perspective as opposed to an inside perspective that Dr. Makeley has. So yeah, just to confirm, 10:30 to 11:30, Dr. Nancy Marchand Martella will be there, room 400. That's the copy. Mike.
Can I have a quick comment and then I'm done?
Yeah.
I swear. I agree 100% with your your recommendation. I believe in these times, we need someone who truly knows MSU inside and out. And from the conversations I've had with interim Provost Makeley, he knows that. There's a reason they chose him to fill that gap when former Provost Abrunia left all of a sudden. So I think he would be my pick for it. And I think if the administration, Dark Davison is listening, I think that's your person. But of course, I will be there Monday to interview the other one as well. So
Perfect. Thank you. Will?
Are we still discussing this? Because I would like to bring up something since there's still 10 minutes.
I have Amelia first, and then me, and then I can add you to my list for open floor announcements and updates if you have
Sounds
something
good.
to add.
Thank you.
Amelia.
Hello. So I wanted to give an update about the Gita advocacy that has been happening that I have been involved with in my capacity as a counselor and in my personal capacity. Kind of like I said before, I feel like those two kind of very much overlap, which I think is a good thing. And so where we are at with the Gita space and the ongoing work that we have done to try our very best to get Gita the space that they deserve. You know, space on this campus is it's very challenging. Multiple different entities always have a stake in that. And so with that being said, we did, and when I say we, I mean the board of Triota, which is the Feminist Honor Society underneath the Gender and Women's Studies Department. We met with the provost a few times, and one of the outcomes from that meeting is that the provost submitted the bid for the new plans for the Gita space. So the bid essentially has everything in there that they need for the floor plan, and the bid then is sent to, I believe, and people who would be doing construction on it, and then they would get it back with an estimate. That is good that they sent that out. However, they sent that out without any consideration, excuse me, or inclusion of Gita staff, Gita students, or Gita faculty. And I bring that up because that bid process includes all of the things that all of the services that would be in that floor plan. And so to do that without the people who would be using the space is alarming to me. And I told both of them that in our meeting. And so I wanted to let everybody know about that because I felt like that was a giant misstep and a much longer process where Gita has been swept under the rug, and that has been admitted. They admitted with all of the turnover. With all of the turnover, this has gotten swept under the rug. And while I deeply appreciate their honesty, I'm deeply, as a student, as a member of Gita, as a student who cares about that space for other students as well, it is deeply alarming to me the mistreatment that has not only been happening to the space itself within the bid process, within the moving process, but also the exclusion of students, faculty, and staff of Gita, the Gender Women Studies program as well. And so I wanted to give an update on that. And so again, you know, this project has been ongoing the whole entire semester, and it's something that I'm very, very committed to. And again, anybody is welcome to support with this project. In our next steps, we'll be meeting with facilities to evaluate the plan that they have chosen, because now it has gotten so far to the point that we, and when I say we, I mean anybody advocating for the Gita space, can no longer change the bid, because they have, in my opinion, strategically waited this long for the move and for the bid process, so that our advocacy efforts kind of are coming to a fork in the road where we need to essentially look into next year and what capital funds look like for next year, because they have already been allocated. And a reminder again, what I was quoted from the dean is that there's about $100,000 gap between the plan that has been chosen and the plan that Gita needed. And this week, Sky and I spoke with Andrew, who is over in budget. He leads the budget team. And he said that $100,000 in the grand scheme of university funding is not a lot of money. And so there's more updates to be given. And please, if you have any questions on this project, the process of this project, or the implications of this project, please let me know. But we will be escalating our advocacy efforts. And if you want to be involved, please let me know.
I want to go ahead and move into my open floor announcements and updates, but I know we're also approaching time, so I'll try and keep it quick. We may also need to extend the meeting again, possibly. I do see that we have a delegate, maybe with a direct response to Amelia's update. Does somebody want to yield?
I yield my time to Sky.
Thank you, Siobhan. Sky, if you could keep it brief since we have 4 minutes left and we're already over. Sky.
Yeah, I did want to say I didn't actually have a direct response to Amelia. I just was in transit to the hospital for a surgery during my delegate updates, and I wanted to give one, but I can wait till everybody else is done.
If you just want to go ahead and go with your delegate update, real quick first though, I'm gonna motion to extend the meeting by another 15 minutes.
Seconded.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Is anybody gonna have to leave? Okay, Victor, that's totally fine. Okay, Sky, if you want to go ahead and.
Yeah, beautiful. I just wanted to say I am working on trying to incorporate some of the rules of order and process that we ran into with problems in the last couple of weeks into our Constitution via an amendment. I would love to have counselors on board with that. And obviously I would need one to work with me on it for it to actually be a piece of business. And additionally, if folks are wanting to incorporate the delegacy program into the Constitution, I know we only have 1 more week to propose amendments. I would love to give my input as a delegate and my input as likely a future counselor if someone wants to write that. Just FYI. That's all I had.
Perfect. Thank you, Sky. I would definitely recommend working with Accountability Committee on that because I know Will referenced working on that already. And then as for the delegates program, I had discussion with quite a few people, and we feel at this time it's not quite ready for an amendment. However, I would love to see a resolution come out of the next council to continue this program and hopefully get it to the point where we are at the stage for an amendment.
Thank you.
Perfect. And then get into my open floor announcements updates real quick. I'll try to make it quick. I did want to put together a slideshow, possibly for inauguration or for another event. So if you guys have any fun pictures from the year, I might send out like a Google Photos thing or something. If you guys could just send them to me though, that would be awesome. They can be really funny or they can be cute. And then the other thing is that Elise reached out to Levi and I because they got a charge from the interim provost in regards to a holistic teaching evaluation task force, and they want to include student government in some capacity or another. So we talked to them, and I think decided that we would wait, obviously, to have a representative on this committee until we just know who the new council is and they can decide upon that themselves. However, they were wondering if you guys think it would be fruitful for them to come in and do some sort of presentation, and we can ask them some questions with the current council. That way they're set up for the summer with student input. That way we're not just totally pushing it off to the fall. So is that something that you guys would be interested in? If so, I will add it to the agenda for one of the next 2 meetings. Thoughts, Mike?
What is that task force again? I'm sorry. It's a
Holistic Teaching Evaluation Task Force. It's basically reevaluating those SRIs, so the student ratings of instruction, and how there's some inherent bias in those, and trying to figure out if there's a better way to collect feedback from students in regards to those evaluations.
Okay.
Amelia, you remember when Dr. Lechuga reached out to both of us? Yes, that's what this is.
Yeah. Do people, kind of show of hands, would you want them to come in for a presentation on that? Yeah. Patrick, Susanna? You would want them to come in for a presentation? Okay. It looks like Matt. Perfect. I will go ahead and add that. And Siobhan, thank you. I will go ahead and add that onto the agenda for one of the future meetings. I'll kind of coordinate with them to try and see when the best time would be. But that way they can kind of get student feedback as they go into the summer process as well. And then they will be looking for a representative from TSAC on that come the fall. If we have the capacity for it, hopefully we will, since we'll have 2 extra members on the council. And then Will, did you want to do your open floor announcement update?
No, that's fine.
Okay, well then I guess we'll move over to the advisors.
Thank you, Haley. Couple things for us. First of all, hopefully you all know this, but enrollment management, our associate vice president or chief enrollment management officer Long is no longer with the university. They are leaving. I think their last day was last week. And so right now, Dr. Megan Schersberg will be the interim enrollment management person here at the university and in our division. So that's just a relatively large staff member update that I wanted you all to be aware of. As Haley mentioned earlier, please, for TSAC specifically, fill out her survey for helping out at RAD, because there are going to be some folks here that are employed also through CMEI or student government that will be called on to work the event. So it's really important that those who are not employed through CMEI fill out this survey and please dedicate some time at RAD to work. Otherwise, it's going to be an unstaffed station. Reminder, May 9th is our inauguration. That is for everyone. So current counselors, new counselors. And last thing is I just put in the TSAC chat, the link to the paper plate awards. Please fill that out as you all see fit. And I yield to Armando.
I just want to start off with a question of, do you know if your friends voted? You get it? Okay. Much like the US elections, I wish we can search it up. I have the power, but I'm not going to give that to y'all. Please ask your friends if they have voted in student government elections. Just it's the last hour. Next is I do have a date correction for food for finals. I had put on your calendars at the start of the year for the week of May 9th, I believe, but it's actually the following week. So May 12th and 13th are the correct dates. Those were the correct dates across the university, just not on our end. So please do make sure that that is noted for that Monday and Tuesday. For delegates, just one last reminder to reach out to Stephen and I for our last April-May delegate 101s. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is Student Staff Appreciation Week, so I would like to publicly appreciate Brandon and Sam. Please and on record, her early happy birthday for Brandon, as his birthday is on Monday. And then last but not least, I just wanted to kind of reground ourselves and remembering that we are human, we are students first. Well, actually all of us. We are human, we are students first. Please take care of one another, ask each other how you can best assist. I know we are stretched thin, but together is better than rather trying to figure it out solo. And that is all for me.
Do you have time to sing happy birthday?
I think we actually have about 7 minutes or more than that left in the meeting since I extended it. Do you want to lead it?
The motion to sing Brandon happy birthday?
Seconded. Any objections? Any
Right.
abstentions? Ready?
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Birthday to you.
Birthday
Birthday to you.
Happy birthday,
Birthday
dear Brandon. Happy
Happy
birthday to you.
How old are you turning?
Alrighty, and with that,
We're submitting that to the Grammy Recording Academy.
oh heck yeah. Any last minute announcements, updates?
I make the motion to end the
the
meeting.
meeting.
Seconded.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Victor's not here to abstain. Awesome. Have a great weekend, y'all.